Today's story is a very interesting one. It happened about 14 years ago or so. What actually happened was I chased down this wretched criminal. This guy was so evil and dangerous. I mean, everybody was afraid of him. And I chased him down. And when I grabbed him, I made him pay. I mean, this guy was begging me for mercy. And then, while he was kneeling on the ground, looking up at me, he said, "Who are you?" And I leaned into him and I said, "I'm Batman." Yeah. Yep. Okay. That part's not true, but what is true is I did chase down a criminal, and I got him. A little over a decade ago, an old friend and I used to have a tradition where we would go to the city a week after July 4th for this enormous 4th of July fireworks show. And it was actually run by the Gucci brothers. And it was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. We would go right up to the docks, and we're just like, I don't know, 100 feet, 200 feet away from the barges where the fireworks would go off. So it was the best seat in the house. But every time we would go, there would be an incident. And we almost felt like we were being called by God to be guardians of people, because all these things would always happen when we were there. There was one incident where this old man, he was probably like 98 years old, almost hit a car in front of him. And that car in front of him had a guy who was probably 75 years old, maybe 80. And the guy in the front car comes running out, and he wants to beat the crap out of the little 98-year-old man. 98-year-old man is with his wife, who's also probably around that age. And they're both these just tiny little shriveled up people. And they didn't want to get into any fight, so they wouldn't even look at the guy. The little old man's just holding onto his steering wheel. The wife is just looking forward. Meanwhile, the other old man with his whole family in the car are screaming and yelling at them. They want to beat him up. He's like, "Get out of this car! I'm going to beat your butt! Get out of here!" I mean, he was using other language. So me and my friend are like, why isn't anybody doing anything? I mean, this could escalate. So we actually started walking, and we stood by as guardians to make sure that nobody got hurt. Thankfully, nobody did get hurt. I think the smart thing was that the little old man, the 98-year-old man, just didn't say a word, and the other guy let his frustration out, and then they drove off. It was pretty much every time we went there, an incident would happen. However, the biggest thing that happened was the most craziest. Now, this particular day was a bit frustrating because this particular fireworks show had grown in popularity since 9/11. And their 9/11 show that they did, which was actually in 2002, was one of the most amazing moments of my life. At that time, I wasn't really a big Josh Groban fan, but they played one of his songs, "You Raise Me Up," alongside all of this other patriotic music, and everything was designed as a remembrance and a tribute to the victims of 9/11. It was unbelievable. I have never experienced anything like this. And as the song "You Raise Me Up" is playing, and I'm watching the fireworks, and it was quite emotional. I looked around at everybody else, and to see tears in everybody's eyes, it was a moment I will never forget. It was so amazing that a lot of people started going every year to this thing, and more than they had normally gone. And so this particular year, which I believe was my last time going, it was so overcrowded. Every parking lot was full. Businesses that were nearby would let you park in their lawns and in their parking lots. Those were full. And it got to a point where I was having a hard time finding a spot. And I ended up finding this little parking lot that was kind of hidden off the main road. Thankfully, I got in there. The parking lot was kind of in the dark, and I just backed in, anticipated what it would be like to leave, meaning stuck there for hours on end. So that way I could just back in and watch until I saw the traffic clear up where I can get the hell out of there. So we had quite a walk to get to the docks to watch the show, and we get there, and the place is just jam-packed. There's so many people there. And we couldn't actually get our favorite spot, which was the closest to the barges. It was already full. There were people with lawn chairs there and everything. And they even closed off the docks, so you could only go by the outer edge or the front of the dock. They had them roped off because now suddenly they were hosting VIP people, special people who were invited and got to sit there with their tea and crumpets. And then the anticipation of when the show's going to begin. You see them getting the barges ready, and you're like, oh, there's action happening. Oh, this is going to start soon. And you're getting excited. And then suddenly you hear... Yep, there comes the casino boat. The big casino boat. Ah, damn it. Really was hoping that was only a one-time thing last year, but nope. Here comes the casino boat. It's the casino party boat. And on top of the boat, and it's a big ferry, by the way. The boat's a ferry, so they have cars and buses underneath. And on top is a big open deck, and they're having a party up there. They've got a live band doing 1970s disco, which, don't want to offend anybody, but I kind of hate that music. Yeah, I didn't really grow up during that time frame, and I don't really like it that much, so I'm sorry if you're offended by it, but it was annoying the hell out of me. And being played by a cover band. And they're up there and, you know, playing their little music, and I can't even think of any disco song right now. Just think of all the popular ones. They were playing them. And they're up there, and all the people are dancing, and you have the lights and everything, and they park right near the dock, and they're just there, and now they just ruined the whole experience. Like, I want to hear the fireworks. I don't want to hear, you know, Disco Duck being played by a cover band. You know, but that's what they're doing. And that's the way I like it. Oh, everybody yelling and screaming. Oh, you know, it was just, they ruined it. And I started to get aggravated. Like, I'm like, just like, if you were to see my face, you'd have been like, uh-oh, he ain't in a good mood. No, they just ruined the whole experience. And I think back while I'm there and I'm listening to that, I'm like, but what about with the Josh Groban thing and the Ray Charles, America the Beautiful, and all the patriotic songs and the, you know, the songs that fit 9/11? What happened to all that? What is this? What is this? I don't want to hear this and see all those people dancing up there with all the lights flashing and their disco ball and all that, and they're all dressed like it's 1972. Come on! And then the fireworks starts. And the band stopped playing for about a minute, and then they went back to it again and ruined the firework experience. So you're hearing the boom and the cracks. So wasn't too happy about that, and I kept thinking to myself, I'm not really sure if I want to come back here again, because that's kind of ruining the experience. I just want to feel the explosions of those fireworks and listen to the actual sounds of them. That's part of the experience. And for me, and I know that I do personally know people like this as well, there are people who listen to those fireworks and imagine that you're back in like the 1700s during the Revolutionary War and what it was like in this country at that time. At this point in time, this was happening. People were listening to, there weren't fireworks they were hearing actual muskets and guns being shot off and cannons while they were fighting for freedom. And so, to me, that connects us to the past, to the people who were here before us, and liberated this country. Yeah, I wasn't really happy about that. So the show continued. I think at one point in time, maybe halfway through, the band said, all right, everybody, we're going to go take a break, but we'll be back soon. I remember we all cheered, like, yeah, don't come back. Yeah. And then we got to listen to the rest of the show in peace. So that was great. It didn't really help either that the party casino boat had a giant spotlight on it that was pointed right into my eyes the entire time. That didn't really help. The show ends. My friend turns to me and says exactly what I was thinking. I don't know about this anymore. And I'm like, that's exactly what I was thinking, because that party boat's kind of ruining it. Now, before I continue this story, I had gone to this fireworks show many, many times. It is always an adrenaline rush. It is such a thrill. It is fun. It is exciting. And it just feels great. And it's the same kind of feeling you get after going to a rock concert. You know, it is fantastic to see your favorite band up there on stage and listening to the music and the energy that's in the room and rocking it out with everybody else there, fellow fans. But the worst part is when it's over. That's when things go completely downhill. And that's exactly what happens with the fireworks show. Now you gotta go back to your car. You gotta walk through the giant crowd, many times walking much slower than you, And if you're like me, and you probably notice this as you're watching this hiking video, I walk pretty quickly. And so as people are walking slow and just like, I'm getting aggravated. And I just want to yell, get out of my way! I just want to get through! I don't. I stay polite. But I want to do that. Now you have to go through this long walk with the giant crowd. And you know, like at a music concert, it's the same thing. Sometimes it's so packed, you're walking like penguins. You're just like, little step here, little step there, little step here, little step there. Just making your way through. And then you get to the parking lot. You can breathe a little bit, but you know that your night is about to get worse. Because typically driving out of a concert venue is hell. It is pure hell. You are stuck in traffic for who knows how long. You try to get out as fast as you can because you know you're talking about thousands of people, thousands of cars, all headed out to the highway at the same time. Then you know there's going to be a few rude people in there, people who beep their horn at you or slam on their brakes or this or that, or someone who likes to break the rules and go cutting through the traffic to try to cut you off. So you start anticipating that and you're like, oh God, here we go. The crowd is walking now on the sidewalks, they're in the streets, there's cars driving in the street. At one point in time, someone almost got hit by a car. This idiot comes barreling by and almost smashes into this person. And we're all like, dude, get out of the road. At another point, I think there was a couple people who thought that it'd be great to take a shortcut on a train track. And you can hear the train coming and it's like, what the hell are you doing? They actually jumped the train and took off. It was great. They went right by their parking space and they got in and they drove out. They were smart. No, that didn't happen. So now the crowds start dispersing as everybody's going their separate ways to their different parking lots, and we make it to the parking lot we're in. It's very calm there. I noticed that everybody in that parking lot is just staying in their cars. Everybody's going to wait it out. And I thought, okay, this is a pretty cool crowd here. They all kind of got the right idea, so I'm going to do the same. So we're sitting in the dark. You can see the streets full of cars. And you just know it's going to be a while before we're going to get out there. But once we're all pretty much, I could feel everybody's thoughts. Everybody's probably thinking the same thing. Once we see that the traffic is moving, then we'll leave. So a few cars form a line at the entrance who didn't want to wait. And right in front of me was this minivan. And it was this white minivan. And there was a family in there. And you had the dad and the mom who was absolutely gorgeous. So I was just looking at her like, that guy is lucky. She is beautiful. In the backseat of the car, there were like 3 or 4 kids, and then grandma was back there too. And I just noticed how, they were just such a calm family. Everybody's just taking it easy and all that. And I'm looking at the car in front of them. I couldn't really see how many people were there, but everybody was just being polite and calm. And so I just kind of liked the vibe of that. I didn't see any idiots, nobody trying to cut anybody off or being a jerk. Everybody's just taking it easy. Something catches my eye way off in the distance. And it looked to me like I saw a car jump in the air, like go airborne. And then I see all this dust come up. And I'm just like, what in the hell is that? And I point out to my friend and he sees it. Next thing you know, this beat up white car comes racing through this parking lot. And it was a gravel parking lot. And I see it coming around. I'm like, what the hell is this idiot doing? Where do you think you're going? You're not going to go anywhere. Nobody's going anywhere. So he pulls up right to the bumper of that white minivan. I have spider senses. I have really good spider senses. I can't explain it. I don't know how it works. I just don't know. But sometimes I just know things. I can predict when something's going to happen, and I knew that something bad was about to happen. And I could sense that this guy was a problem. And I turned to my friend and I said, be ready. I think we're going to have a problem here. And sure enough, that dude starts slamming on his horn. And he is slamming on his horn and he is screaming out the window and yelling at the minivan. They're not reacting. They're not reacting. They're staying calm, which is smart. Don't agitate the guy. Just ignore him. But I'm thinking like, this is going to escalate. Something bad is going to happen. And I started getting prepared. And I started thinking about what am I going to do? I go to my friend. I said, we're probably going to have to stop him. Nobody else is going to do it because that's typically what happens. Everybody stands around and watches or grabs their phone and records it, but nobody's going to do anything. And I'm like, we have to. And he's like, I don't know, man. I don't know if we should. And I'm like, I think we're going to have to. I'm like, let's just monitor the situation. But if something escalates, we're going to have to jump out and get him. I know, that sounds crazy, right? Go get him! Why does this stuff always happen to us every time we come here? Like, every time we come here, an incident happens. The guy gets out of his car and rushes to the window of the driver, and he starts screaming, "You get this effing car out of here right now! Get out of my way, MFer!" And he's yelling and calling him names, and he starts threatening him. "You hear me, bro? I'm gonna kill you! You hear me? I'm gonna kill you!" And that's when I turned to my friend. I'm like, all right, get ready. And I reached into the back of my truck, and I grabbed a tire iron. So the dude was getting frustrated. He goes back into his car. He's angry again. He starts yelling at the wife from the other side of the car, and he's like, "Yo, bitch, you tell him to get this out." And he's screaming. Meanwhile, the driver never says a word. He won't even look at the guy. Then this guy starts threatening that he's going to shoot them. He's going to grab his gun and start shooting them. And that's when I know it's time. And I go to grab the door handle, and that's when the criminal guy goes back to the driver's side, and that's when the driver steps out. It was Dwayne Johnson. This guy looked like The Rock. He was the same height as Dwayne Johnson, the same build. He was enormous, and this guy took a shit right then and there. I saw the brown stuff come right out of his shorts. I mean, he freaked, because this guy was only like 5'5" maybe. And this big guy was like 7'9". And he just looked at the guy and he pointed him, and his biceps were all like bulging and bubbly. And he just looked at that guy and he says, "Get back in your car and do it now." And that guy was like, yo, man, okay, I don't got a problem with you. It's your wife. She's the one mouthing off. That's what you just tell her to, now! Okay, man, okay, I'll get back in the car. Man, okay, no problem. So he gets back in his car, and he's still making threats. He's like, "I'm going to shoot your ass. I'm going to shoot your ass. You hear me?" And that big guy, I was blown away. Like, this guy, he didn't even have to say much. Just pointing his finger made this guy shit himself. The criminal realizes he's not going to get by this guy, so he's going to do something else. An important detail here that I left out is towards the first 5 minutes, I actually called 911 because this guy didn't actually see me in the truck. We were in a shadow, and he never looked over at any point in time. He never saw me there. I knew that I could sneakily call the police without him knowing, and that's exactly what I did. And I had no idea what parking lot I was in. I didn't know where I was. I just found an open space and parked. So I kind of had to guide the cops by using landmarks. They actually found us that way. I saw them coming up the street. At that time that they were coming, I don't know if he saw them coming or he just took off, but he took off. Before I continue this story, I want to point out, because I brought up the tire iron. I started opening my door, and my whole thought process was that because we were in the shadows, he wouldn't know I was there. And I would be able to run out and get kind of behind his car without him seeing me, and then smash him with that tire iron. Kind of like Batman. Like Batman just comes out of the darkness and suddenly he's there. And I would have smashed that tire iron into this guy, tried to disable him. And then at that point, he would have been like, "Oh my God, who are you?" And then, of course, I would have gotten to say the line, "I'm Batman." And yeah, he might actually believe it. But anyways, that's not what happened. Instead, he took off. And I jumped out of my truck and I started chasing him as fast as I possibly could. Suddenly, all these other people in their cars got out and started running behind me. I kind of felt like the Pied Piper. I'm focused on getting this guy. I was going to run and grab him and tackle him to the ground. And I see the cops and I'm like, "Yo, over here!" And I'm yelling. And then everybody else starts doing the same. And they start waving their hands up. So the cop sees it and he turns around. And then I actually chased the guy, and I'm just feet away from him. He can't go anywhere with his car. He stops his car and gets out. And now I'm actually physically chasing him. I am just about to grab him when the cop gets out of his car. I blocked the guy so he can't go anywhere. He has nowhere to run. I chased him right into the cop. Right directly into the cop. He had no place to go. That's how I nabbed a criminal. It was weird because afterwards we found out that he had a long criminal record. He was wanted by the police and the police had been unable to find him. I think he was just making threats, but I don't know if we were all in real danger. But I was proud of myself for actually doing something. But what was weird about it is the police didn't know that it was me. They didn't know that I was the one who called them. They didn't know that I was the one who chased the guy, because the cops just looked around at everybody else and said, all right, thank you, everybody. We really appreciate your help. Thanks for helping us on this. And never, like, looked at me or anything. And I just thought I kind of did this thing under the radar, like, kind of like Batman, you know? I'm not going to get credit for it. I'm not going to get any accolades. But I know that I did something good, that I stood up and I stopped someone who could have been dangerous, who could have caused a lot of problems. And I don't know what his criminal record was. I don't know what he was wanted for. But there is a lesson to be learned here, as there is with every story. And the lesson is, sometimes you gotta be the hero. You know, you always hear that expression, don't be the hero, meaning avoid it, just leave it alone, let other people deal with it. But who are the other people who are gonna deal with it? Maybe you're the other person who's going to deal with it. Maybe you're the person who's supposed to step up because you just happen to be at the right place at the right time. That doesn't mean that you are a hero. It doesn't mean you're going to get accolades for being a hero. It doesn't mean you're going to be acknowledged for it. And I never considered myself to be a hero. I've never even used the term until now. However, I just knew that I felt the need to do something, and that I wasn't afraid to do something. I felt like I needed to do something, that I was supposed to stop him. And I know that if I had not called the police, nobody else would, because nobody did call the police. I was the only one who did. And I also know that none of those people would have jumped out of their cars and chased him down if it wasn't for me doing it. Because nobody did anything. They were ignoring the situation. But once I started running, they all saw what I was doing, and they followed behind me. And that's the other thing too. When you become the hero, when you step up, you inspire others to do the same. And so all of those people were inspired to do the same. And at the end of the day, who knows what we stopped, what we prevented from happening if this guy had continued to do whatever he was doing. So that's why sometimes you gotta be the hero.
And now, a shameless plug.
And now it's time for another shameless plug, where I plug something of mine, shamelessly. And today, it's paranormalaliens.com. It's a website that I have created that features all sorts of spooky and creepy items, things that come from outer space, things that come from the dark corners of your basement, things that come from the caves in the forest. Check out paranormalaliens.com for all sorts of really cool and creepy items that I have personally created. Do you know someone who is a big fan of horror or the paranormal, or is it to UFOs and aliens? Well, come to paranormalaliens.com and find the perfect gift item. Check it out today, paranormalaliens.com. And that was my shameless plug. Now back to the video.